again, welcome everyone again to Mishi-maya-gat. My name is Stephen Campilio. So Dara Wier is going to read first, and she will be followed by James Tate. Dara was born in Louisiana in 1949 and received her MFA from Bowling Green University in 1974. She's the author of numerous collections of poetry, including the most recent You Good Thing, published by Wave Books in 2013. She has also published selected poems in 2009. Other books include Remnants of Hannah, Reverse Rapture, which received the 2006 San Francisco State University Poetry Center Award, Hat on a Pond, Voyages in English, Our Master Plan, which received the Phi Beta Kappa Award, Blue for the Plow, The Book of Knowledge, All You Have in Common, The 8-Step Grapevine, and Blood, Hook, and Eye, going all the way back to 1977. Her work has been included in recent volumes of Best American Poetry and the Pushcart Prize Anthology, and she has been supported by fellowships and awards from the Guggenheim Foundation, National Endowment for the Arts, the Mass Cultural Council, and the American Poetry Review. As I mentioned, she teaches in the MFA program at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. Please welcome Dara Wier.
So, hi. I can't see y'all. Right. The lights are so bright. So, but I can hear you. So thank you for being here. I'm going to just read a few poems so that we can hear Jim read for a while. So the first poem is called Capitalism. Love, empathy, sympathy, insight, courage, humor, love, grace, humor, love, wit, foresight, generosity, love, humor, truth, empathy, grace, sympathy, empathy, sincerity, grace, truth, beauty, wit, courage, adventuresomeness, surprise, love, humor, empathy, kindness, withholding, judgment, love, humor, empathy, recklessness, generosity, love, humor, despair, understanding, love, humor, empathy, recklessness, love, humor, despair, loving kindness, love, humor, empathy, humor, joy, sympathy, love, kindness, courage, empathy, recklessness, love, humor, courage, beauty, wit, love, empathy, sympathy, kindness. Thank you. This book is a kind of new book for me. It came out in the spring, and you know how it's a convention for books to have epigraphs, some nice words at the beginning that somebody else said, you know. And this book, and I saw a drawing by a poet I love named Fernando Pessoa, who's Portuguese, and the drawing was a little sketch that he drew to give to a woman that he was in love with, who he worked with in a bank in Lisbon. And so it's a tiny little drawing that just is kind of lines that move around on a page like this. But the note he sent her with the drawing said, "How to walk Ophelia home by the longest possible route." And it was a really sweet drawing, and I liked it so much I wanted to use it for the epigraph of this book. All the poems in this book are kind of short little poems, about 14 lines long, and all of them are addressed to a you, but the you throughout the book changes in my mind, and it can be anybody in anybody's mind. It doesn't really matter to me. But it was sometimes a place that had been badly damaged and hurt. Sometimes it was a person who I had lost, so an animal, a time, all kinds. So the U was always addressed to something that had been lost. And that as you know, it's not, when you lose something, it's not sometimes something that you're just sad about. You might be unwilling to accept that, or you might be slightly angry about it. Yeah, you know, maybe, or you might be trying to get them to come back, even though you know you can't do that. And so there's some of that kind of stuff in these poems. So I'm just going to read you a few of them. And the first one is called Not a Verbal Equivalent. You said one thing as a way of not saying something else. You wrote something so that other things wouldn't be written. You drew me a picture of one thing and not anything else. I'm trying to figure out how this applies to what you've gone and done, in case by doing so a solution to the problem we've been having no success solving makes itself evident. For the sake of argument, let's say I'm a crime and you're a clue and someone else we don't know who is the detective. We're on the Wind River Reservation and it's twilight and you have on your windbreaker of many pockets and I have on my boots, in which I hide whatever needs to be hidden. To be perfectly accurate, you are barefooted, and I have nothing to hide at the moment. Wild geese, 2 butterflies, a coal train, skid marks on the curve in the road that will point us slowly into a nearby cave. We traveled by night in a ship made of ebony splinters. We watched an octopus pretending to be sleeping. It was watching us, pretending we weren't noticing. On our walls were to our windows what our minds were to our mouths. In the distance, ivory glowed across the horizon, as if a supernatural light source were being tested. You were perhaps the one in charge of this document. So I cut my finger for you to surprise you. In the distance tingled acres of red-tipped monolithic bee storms. I saw you duck behind the trunk of a cypress. I saw you corner and quarter and replace yourself with a turnstile. Much makes us miss your velocity and endurance. I have a little pocketful of your steadfast resolution. In the distance are horses convening. As snow falls on them is as you fall on us, and we stand here as though we were taking it. It's always funny to me when I write about snow as if I know it, because because when I grew up in Louisiana, I didn't see snow until I was like once when I was 8 years old. Pretty exciting. So now I'm used to it. Blind eyes in no man's land. You are much like a rubber tombstone in a hailstorm, somewhat like a porcelain tabletop with one long black hair moving on its own accord. A little like jasmine tea spread over the galaxy in a midnight's dawning. Pieces of you are not at all like a mountain of rice or sand in a ruined sandbox. Your shadow disobeys the sun's orders. You are a black coat's silver lining shredded and stripped with use. In the clinking of ice and in the clinking of sticks on fire, we can sense where you are much as we sense when we're coming near a river's edge. A book is kind because its pages let us know when we're reaching its end. You leave tracks, you leave evidence, you leave trails to tantalize, and we suppose to keep wanting to find you. You suppose we have little else to do with our lives. We've heard your volleys and explosions rock the hills in our valleys. impressed with your fine sense of composition. You're a silk tombstone, nearby which a child is blowing out a match. This is called Another Way to Look at It. I sit down at the table and I light a candle and a plate of something delicious appears before me. All the right utensils are there. I have a napkin dropped in my lap. My glass is full of something. There's a knock at the door, the one door in the room, the only door in the house I'm in. Off in the distance is far, far away, as far as our nearest star. A sound wave carrying code of a voice I recognize has already entered my ear. Beneath the floor, underneath where there's nothing we know of, there's steady breathing, and sometimes a stream of a steady wind's unwavering velocities, such as one might find in a wind tunnel, testing something's endurance. Sitting before me on a stump on the table is a girl reading a book. It's the only book in the world she's in. She reads with her eyes closed, as if that's the true way to do it. I follow her lead, close my eyes, and begin to read from a book that's been dropped onto the table in front of me. You'll know me later better, after I've gone through one of those shut black doors. And this is called Importance of Passing Time While Moving Through Space. Walking up the aisle of a moving train as it passes under an overpass in rush hour traffic, while thinking about which way the wind's blowing, while wondering if we, us on the train, are surely aimed in the same direction as the Earth is rotating on its axis, as we're spinning at some fantastic rate none of us feel, along the sun path the Earth takes, with its going where it must go, so on, and you say a while later, as we speed by car to watch ice break in a little river, who will love me? And we let the road do its job. Who will think of me as we scroll past a snowbank creek whose water throws back sunlight flashes as it moves fast? Who will touch my hand? Nothing looks much better than two big crows and their shadows dividing, as if an extreme assembly has suddenly disbanded. Who will keep me? As our heads turn, attracted by a huddle of shaggy ponies and one banded heifer and 5 grazing deer gathered by a tilted fence near the edge of a crossroad. Who will sift for me? Thank you all.